In the headlines to the CBC NewsNight, the Prime Minister encourages Caribbean nations to pool resources for their energy transition. Barbados among several countries presenting before the International Court of Justice on climate change. Air Canada and Barbados celebrate 75 years of a mutually beneficial relationship.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC NewsNight, starting now.
Good evening and welcome to the CBC NewsNight. I'm Wendy Burke with the details. The need to pool procurement resources has been highlighted by Prime Minister Mia Motley as a critical component of the energy transition efforts of Caribbean nations. She made the point during a three-day Caribbean high-level forum on managing the energy transition, which began this morning at the Lloyd Erskine Sandiford Center. It's a joint initiative of the Barbados government and the International Monetary Fund. We hear more in this Kent Jerson report.
If ever there was a time for pooled investment, it is in the area of renewable energy.
Prime Minister Mia Motley stresses the point as she addresses the high-level meeting that includes Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, Kristalina Georgieva, government ministers and officials from other Caribbean nations, bankers, academics, and other stakeholders. She contends that pooling the resources would allow them to command the investment and technology necessary to effect a serious transition. Ms. Motley also suggests how they should go about it.
Simply that instead of meeting a few times here and talking about other matters, that we also add now to the scope of the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas the issue of energy, and in particular renewable energy. And I truly believe that if we, over the course of the next few months, can do that, then we can begin to see the possibility of real change and transformation in this region, as well as protecting ourselves and building the resilience necessary to come through the climate crisis successfully.
The Prime Minister says an energy audit of the renewable energy capacity of the region will be undertaken to determine where we are and need to go. She also shares her hopes for the outcome of the discussions.
And I hope, therefore, that this discussion today can, in some small way, stimulate the interest among individual countries, first to cooperation, and then, two, to recognizing that we are always stronger when we move together.
In her remarks, the IMF's Managing Director says the meeting is timely. Ms. Georgieva also believes the transition to renewable energy is the right move for many reasons, one of which is that it just makes economic sense. She explains how the IMF can assist in this regard.
An institution like the IMF can do a lot to help countries put in place the policy and regulatory environment that would make investments more likely to happen, and that can accelerate this transition. And I take it, you will see we are here from the IMF with great interest to listen to the discussion for that reason.
Among the topics to be covered are taking stock of the macroeconomic implications of the green energy transition, achieving a sustainable and equitable green energy transition, and scaling up climate finance, the potential of the private sector. Kent Jerson, CBC News.
Barbados was among the countries presenting before the International Court of Justice in The Hague as the ICJ commended its first hearings to clarify what countries are legally required to do to combat climate change. After years of lobbying by island nations, the UN General Assembly asked the ICJ last year for an opinion on the obligations of states. Lawyers and representatives from more than 100 countries and organizations will make submissions before the ICJ. Minister of Foreign Affairs Carrie Simmons says the climate crisis for Barbados is an imminent matter of life and death, as there is nowhere to go for SIDS. He says everything the country has painstakingly constructed as a nation and a people is now at risk due to the climate crisis.
The tourism sector, for example, which has buoyed our economic fortunes for the better part of a century, is now at risk. The fishing sector, which has been a sustainable source of protein for generations of Barbadians, thousands of Barbadians, Mr. President, is now at risk. The sugarcane industry, which we have grown for hundreds of years and from which we have distilled a world-famous rum, is also at risk. Mr. President and your honourable members, you have heard and will no doubt hear more about the record-breaking Hurricane Beryl, which passed through the Caribbean area earlier this year.
Minister Simmons told the ICJ prolonged droughts are another issue states have to contend with. He adds the cost of finance and securing insurance remain hurdles for SIDS.
My country, therefore, like some regions in larger countries, is now in grave danger of becoming uninsurable. And it follows logically, Mr. President, that without the ability to access or sustain insurance premia, a country's economy will also then become uninvestable. Barbados contends, and science clearly demonstrates, that these are the consequences of this man-made climate crisis, a crisis towards which Barbados and small island developing states have contributed almost nothing, but which may take away everything that we have. Mr. President, honourable members of the court, Barbados is a firm believer in the international legal order, and that is why 44 years ago we accepted this court's compulsory jurisdiction.
Plans for the full freedom of movement among CARICOM member states are still on stream. That assurance from Barbados Ambassador to CARICOM David Comachon, who recently attended a meeting of the Council for Trade and Economic Development, COTED, in Guyana. The Barbados delegation was led by Minister of Foreign Affairs Carrie Symonds. It was during the 45th regular meeting of CARICOM heads of government that leaders agreed to commend the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas to guarantee all CARICOM nationals the right to unrestricted travel to live and work in the member countries of the community. The free movement, however, applies to member states that are also part of the CARICOM single market and economy. Ambassador Comachon revealed the issues that were holding back the implementation.
That was to get agreement on emergency health care and primary health care services. So just persons, CARICOM migrants coming into any CARICOM country to reside and work would know that they have guaranteed access to emergency health care, primary healthcare services, and so the technical officers are just working on pinning down those definitions. So we expect that work will be completed, and by the time we come to the Heads of Government Conference in Barbados in February next year, we would be able to roll out this new regime.
Barbados has enjoyed 75 years of relations with Air Canada and boasts of being the longest flight destination within the region for the airline. And Minister of Tourism and International Transport Ian Gooding-Edgell wants the relationship to continue for another 75+ years. Rachel Agard was on hand to witness the 75th anniversary celebrations at the Grantley Adams International Airport and filed this report.
Air Canada has serviced Barbados for 75 years, and this year that route saw an increase of 13.4% of passengers. This is according to Minister of Tourism and International Transport, Ian Gooding-Edgell. He was speaking at Air Canada's 75th anniversary of service to Barbados celebrations.
I must also indicate to you that in this calendar year, to November the 24th, 2024, this destination has seen an increase of 13.4%, representing Air Canada bringing 74,036 passengers to the end of November 2024. I think that's important for us to recognize that this airline has contributed significantly to the economic development of Barbados.
And Minister Gooding-Edgell says the increase in numbers highlights what's in store for the partners going forward.
Air Canada started with the Dreamliner service 1 month earlier than planned, demonstrate the strong demand that there is to a destination Barbados. And I thank Air Canada again, including the Barbados operations, for ensuring that we have a bigger aircraft, bringing more visitors to Barbados for the economy of Barbados to benefit. As we celebrate this remarkable 75th anniversary journey, it is important that we recommit to the partnership.
The 75th anniversary flight was piloted by Captains Mark Tibbetts and Darren Little. Rachel Agard, CBC News.
The Financial Services Commission is now seeking to join the ongoing rate appeal between the Barbados Light and Power Company Limited and the Fair Trading Commission. In a court appearance today before Justice Barry Carrington, the FSC attempted to join the appeal amicus curiae, friend of the court. Intervener Ricky Went told CBC News the trial was set to commence today. However, when the court convened, the FSC urged that its view be heard, to which the other parties made no objections. The court had previously denied the FSC's request.
FSC has to file an application, and then the parties will determine whether they will object or not. But one of the main concerns is that the trial dates, because the court schedule is very tight. All the parties have to submit documents by the 20th of January, and the court will then consider the views of all parties and make a decision. The parties will be invited back for ruling, and then new hearing dates will be given, at a later point.
Last December, BLNP initiated a legal challenge after the FTC rejected its request for an 11.9% rate increase and an 8.79% return on its rate base. The utility company argued the FTC's decision and contained legal and procedural errors that hindered its ability to serve customers. Coming up, the Queen Elizabeth Hospital ready to hear from the public as it gets ready to implement its 3-year strategic plan. With a draft strategy for 2025 to 2028 in hand to take the Queen Elizabeth Hospital forward, the management team today explained it to the media ahead of the town hall. Chief Executive Officer Neil Clark says they've changed the governance mechanism and put measures in place like the balanced scorecard to assess employee performance. He welcomes questions from the public about the strategy.
We're looking forward to hosting this public engagement tomorrow night at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in the auditorium. And let me give you a little bit of background as to how we got to this stage. So I've been here for 7 months now. And in the first few months, I was identifying how the organisation functions and how it works. And we produced something called a governance framework. And that identifies how we operate, how we make decisions, the roles of the QEH and the different committees and the management board. We then produced a balanced scorecard, and that tells me how well we're doing. And there was a bit of a challenge, and we identified very early on that lack of information and data is a real challenge for the organisation. And without good information and good data, it makes it hard to make good decisions. And hence that's why the health information strategy is really important to us.
Director of Support Services Louise Bob says the town hall is a necessary legal obligation.
Holding a public accountability review meeting is a statutory obligation of SOEs, statutory operations. And the QEH, even before it became enshrined in legislation, I believe it's in the Public Finance Act, had engaged in showcasing our stewardship for the year and presented to the public all the things that we had planned and given them an opportunity to offer feedback. This is something that we have been doing for the last 4 or 5 years. It has now become a statutory obligation, as I indicated, and it is to be held every 2 years.
On this International Day of Persons with Disabilities, Barbados has assured it is working assiduously to improve their lives. Minister of People Empowerment Kirk Humphrey in his message says it's incumbent on all of us to treat persons with disabilities with the dignity and respect they deserve. The theme for the 2024 International Day of Persons with Disabilities is amplifying the leadership of persons with disabilities for an inclusive and sustainable future. Minister Humphrey states despite obstacles, there are many persons with disabilities who have overcome the challenges they face on a daily basis. Among those identified, the Most Honourable Carrie-Ann Eiffel, former President of the Senate, Senator Anduele Boyce, and blind attorney at law, Janelle Odo. Mr. Humphrey adds that work continues on the preparation of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Bill that is expected to be submitted to Cabinet and laid within Parliament in the next few weeks. The National United Society of the Blind has created a space through its Youth Empowerment Group to assist young members with navigating life and finding their way. Youth Director Sharice Rote says many youth have low self-esteem.
Mainly because they feel segregated and tossed aside and alone, basically, trying to navigate these uncharted waters. We also have the challenges of education and employment and, social life as well.
Barbados was part of the Caribbean Consular Corps in Toronto when it met with Mayor of Toronto, Olivia Chow, at City Hall to discuss areas of possible collaboration. Discussions centered on challenges and responses to climate change, transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy, trade, cultural exchanges, and education. Follow-up meetings are planned. It's sports time now, and we say good evening to Damien Best. Damien, what's happening cricket-wise?
Yeah, good evening to you, Wendy. Good evening to our viewers and listeners. Well, it's all happening in Jamaica. Bangladesh, they snatched their first test match victory in the Caribbean since 2009, joining the two-test series against the Windies today. Playing at Sabina Park, the Windies were beaten by 101 runs. The hosts struggled in their chase of 287 for victory and were eventually bowled out for 185. Kavim Hodge led with 55 and captain Craig Brathwaite added 43. Taijul Islam, he took 5 for 50. Well, local football is set to receive a major boost from government following the inaugural Prime Minister's Cup competition, which concluded on Saturday night at Kensington Oval. CBC's Anne Margaret Boyce reports.
Government is kicking forward with plans to help develop more quality footballers in Barbados. Speaking after the final of the inaugural semi-professional Prime Minister's Cup tournament, Prime Minister Mia Amor-Montley described the $100,000 competition as wonderful and a means of empowering and giving citizens opportunities. She also disclosed that her administration will play a big role in establishing more designated fields to the sport on the island.
This government will also commit to developing 6 new football fields across Barbados, because we recognize that many of you are exposed to injury and to all other kinds of difficult environments if we don't have dedicated fields available for you. And I'm happy that the National Sports Council has started to invest in the bleachers, which will make it possible for you to play on those fields once developed in a way that can still have an audience.
President of the Barbados Football Association, Randy Harris, says the news of 6 new football fields is welcome.
The truth is that we lack proper facilities for the game of football. 6 new facilities for football would be perhaps one of the greatest things that has happened over the last 25 years or so. We need to have spaces that are well prepared so that our development programs can infuse the best out of our players and coaches.
The recently concluded PM Cup was held at several grounds across different communities in Barbados, including Friendship in St. Michael, Briar Hall in Christchurch, Spikestown, St. Peter, Orange Hill and Haynesville in St. James, with the final at Kensington Oval in Bridgetown. Anmar Goodrich Boyce, CBC Sports.
Well, that is my first half in sports. I'll be back a bit later on. Wendy, it's over to you.
Thank you so much, Damien. Up next on CBC's Newsnight, the Business Report. In tonight's Business Report, Love Bites. It is one of the young bakeries you can visit in Barbados. That's the bold statement from owner and the brains behind the initiative, Zara McCaskey. On tonight's Yes Business Report, the managing director traces the history of the Love Bites and LB experiences with Trevor Thorpe.
In an upbeat mood, Ms. McCaskey told the Yes Business Report, gluten-free and vegan options make up the menu choices of the young enterprise. She says it is more than just a labor of love, offering learning experiences to the public to get to know what her initiative has to offer.
Love Bites is a bakery, and we offer sip and bake experiences along with crunchies. Crunchies is a spin off of cheesecakes, but what we do with the Love Bites brand is we really invite the public to come in and enjoy the space with us and learn something new.
The young company official admits that Love Bites has entered into an already saturated environment, but they have brought something new to the marketplace.
We have really spun into our own niche, and that is for the Sip and Bake experiences and the crunchies. There are two products that are not available in the market aside from Love Bites. So we are surviving and we are thriving.
With assistance from Pillsbury, Carrington's Rum Cream, Atlantic Marketing and Western Wholesale, she says they are currently now only open in the afternoon.
When we first started the Sip and Bake experiences, which would have been last year, I did it mobile. So I offered the experience as a pop-up, and we realized that the response was really well accepted and received. So from that, we decided to open the bakery. This is our first storefront, and we opened in February. And since then, once people are aware of the experiences and aware of crunchies, they're really interested in it. And I'm very happy that we made the decision to open the storefront.
And the Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme provided the grounding for the startup of the company.
The Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme really assisted me in terms of marketing, and there are also other programs in terms of accounts. But what I will say is that even if you think that you're doing well as a business owner, still allow Yes to assist you because they're there to assist.
Love Bites is not difficult to find, and Ms. McCaskey says something sweet is awaiting anyone who can get to Love Bites tonight.
We are actually located opposite Sheraton, and we are open from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. And if you are interested in getting yourself a sweet treat tonight, you can come on down. And we have crunchies available, which is essentially a cheesecake but with more crust, and it's a little bit better. And we have a lot of flavors available, including s'mores and the red velvet crunchy.
And as advice to anyone thinking about getting into business, the young company official recommends you focus on your mental health, rest well, play, and don't give up on your dreams. Trevor Thorpe.
Harris Paints is spreading its wings. The Barbados headquartered paint giant has opened its 6th production facility and flagship store in Guyana. The move will free up capacity across Harris's other regional plants and further increase their ability to provide a significant volume of products to outlets in Jamaica, St. Lucia, Dominica and Barbados. The plant will house the production process that includes raw material selection, mixing, filling, among other things. Chief Operating Officer Marguerite Desser says the investment is a testament to their belief in Guyana's potential and their commitment to supporting that country's remarkable transformation. And that's business. We'll take a break and be back with the weather. And we say good evening to Carrie-Ann O'Neill with our weather news. Carrie-Ann, I had no showers this morning and I was happy. What about tonight?
That's right, Wendy. Good evening to you and good evening, everyone. We had dry and stable conditions today as the high-pressure system was the dominant feature. However, those seas, they're quite choppy at this time. There is a small craft and high surf warning in effect. Meanwhile, those winds, they are moderate to breezy across the region. The maximum temperature today was 30 degrees Celsius and the minimum temperature 23 degrees. At present, the temperature stands at 28 degrees Celsius. The relative humidity is showing that it is relatively dry here in Barbados. Those winds are coming in from the east. We take a look now at our atmospheric conditions, where those temperatures are ranging from 25 to 28 degrees Celsius. The humidity shows it's relatively dry across most of the islands except for Trinidad, and those winds are moderate across the region. We take a look now at our satellite feed, where the high pressure system maintained dry and stable conditions for us here in Barbados. We had mostly fair skies. Those winds are peaking at 23 knots, and the seas, they are moderate to rough in open water, with swells peaking at 3.5 meters. We are urging small craft operators as well as sea bathers to exercise caution. There is a small craft as well as high surf warning in effect. As for beachgoers, we are urging you to utilize those beaches with an on-duty lifeguard. Later on tonight, we can expect mostly clear skies along with just a few light showers. Further south, afternoon showers as well as isolated thunderstorms prevailed across the Guianas. That's our first look at the weather. After the break, we'll have the forecast. Welcome back. In the forecast for tomorrow, the sun is expected to rise at 7 minutes after 6 and will set at 5:31. Now, the first high tide is expected at 17 minutes after 6 in the morning, low tide at 3 minutes past 11 in the morning. Those seas are moderate to rough in open water, with swells peaking at 3.5 meters. We are urging small craft operators as well as sea bathers to exercise caution. There is a small craft as well as high surf warning in effect. Now, the winds are coming in from the east, and they're peaking at 45 kilometers per hour. For us here in Barbados tonight, we can expect mostly clear skies along with just a few brief showers. And over the next 3 days, mainly dry and stable conditions can be expected, except on Thursday, when a shear line will maintain occasionally cloudy skies along with some showers.
Time now to welcome back Damien Best for some more sports.
Thanks so much, Wendy. Well, it will be Boost-powered Queen's College and Harrison College to play for the title in the Cooperatives General Insurance Under-19 Schools basketball competition, as both won their semi-final games last evening at the Willie Gymnasium. CBC's Anne-Marie Burke reports.
We bounced it off in the semi-final between Harrison College and Combermere, where the boys from Crumpton Street were in the driver's seat from jump. This is just before heading into halftime. Isaac Griffith comes up big with 3 from the arc. The Waterford boys kept it as close as possible, but had to fight hard against a tight defense. Nashan Griffith was able to put it up, and he did pick up the foul there too. But the college boys had a few more baskets than their opponents, including the big one from Javier Nichols, as at the end of the first 2 periods, it was a 44-33 scoreline in their favor. Into the third, and sure enough, Combermere were pressing hard to make up the deficit, but the college boys were not easing up, and their point man Zane Cox steals, goes on the break, and finishes with an easy layup. But immediately the counter-attack is on. Seth Plater coast to coast and off the board. We're heading up court now. College on the move. Cox dancing through the D, and more money in the bank. As College were still the ones on the express train to the finals, a 17-point lead at the end of the third, 68-51. And they went into overdrive, outscoring their opponents 29-7 in the final 15. Pulling up at the arc for 3 of those points is Jelani Miller. With the ticket to the final just about booked, all players came to the party. This time it's Griffith to add 3 to the score. A good run from the Waterford boys to get to the semis. Aidan Aubrey with a nice jumper. But the college boys will be going for that glory, as they will take the game at 97-58. Into the finals they go. And it's there they will meet the boys of Queen's College, who totally dominated their opponent's law school. And Darion Griffith was instrumental in this, 2 of his joint game high 26. Though outscored, the Lodge boys had shining moments. Emmanuel Bly with the one-hand floater. But let's see how the scores went. QC, as I mentioned, were dominant, and so by the half, it was 55-25 in their favor. And what happened in the third was a total shutout. The Lodge boys were just out in the game. They managed a single basket as QC switched gears and were basket machines. 2 more compliments Tyler Ford. We're heading back up court. Zane Gaskin finds Ford easy off the glass. Remember I mentioned Lodge's lone basket? Here it is. Bly gets his own rebound and makes wrong things right. As QC went into the final 15, just short of a 50-point lead, 76-27. QC did ease off the pressure in the last quarter, and the Lodge boys started to get some more baskets. And although they came to the party a little too late, kudos on reaching this stage that was Dominique Bourne with the basket. But the writing was already on the wall. QC has set a date with their longtime rivals Harrison College to battle for the under-19 title as they went on to defeat the Lodge School at 87-36. Anne-Marie Burke, CBC Sports.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. Well, the curtain came down on the Barbados Junior Open Squash Championships over the weekend at the Barbados Squash Club in Marine Gardens. Here's a review of some of the results. Let's take in some of the junior nationals. First, the under-15 boys final. Barbadian Daniel Seeley, son of Mark Seeley. He was up against Aidan De Freitas of St. Vincent and the Grenadines in the black shorts. These two thrilled the supporters with some big drives and subtle changes in speed. In the end, though, there would only be one winner. Seeley taking it 11-5, 11-2, 11-2. In other classified results, it was an all-Barbadian affair in the girls under-15 finals featuring defending champion Lena Hamati versus Olivia Watts. Watts upset the apple cart, taking it 3-2, 13-11, 11-9, 4-11, 6-11, 11-8. Despite the defeat, Hamati returned in the girls under-17 category with a vengeance, dismissing fellow Barbadian Philia Knight 11-6, 11-7, 11-love. The boys under-11 category was decided by the match between Ilan Hamati and Savante Padmore. Padmore, he won 11-2, 11-8, 11-6. The girls under-11 category was decided by the match between Barbadian Daniel Ben and Barbadian Ella Griffith. Ben won that matchup 11-7, 11-8, 11-4. Unseeded Barbadian Dominic Wilson was in form as well. He reached the final, overcoming several hurdles, beating the number 3 and number 2 seeds in the under-19 age category. However, he found the going tough when he met the number 1 seed and former Caribbean champion Seth Tong of Trinidad and Tobago for the title. Wilson lost 11-3, 11-9, 11-4. All in all, it was a great weekend of competition. And that's it for sports for tonight. Wendy, it's back over to you.
Thank you so much, Damien. We'll return after the break. Thanks for viewing, and do enjoy the rest of your evening.